shut that off. I don't think we can have music here.
He's better. I'm bro. I lost 75 pounds on bro.
Oh my god, she's on that Kanye diet. Who's ready for day 4? Who's ready for day 4? Drop your little emoji. Let me see who's here. Sound check, sound check. How we looking? How we looking? Yo, Rolly, how you doing, brother? Francisco, my boy. Katie, welcome. Cash, what's going on? Melina, what's up? Angelo, good evening. Jersine, good evening. Robert, what's going on, bruh? Angelo, yes. We pump crypto nights, you know. This is what a lot of people are in here for. Expecting a lot of the people that follow me from a long time ago. We started with the crypto, we do a little stocks too, but our love is the crypto for sure. Hey Katie, Keegan, Michael Robbins in the house. Hey, blockchain. What's going on? Steven, welcome. Karen, Rod, let's get it, my guy. Shout out to the OG. Should be wealthy, OG. We've been here for a little while, dog. A lot of these crypto guys come and go, and that's the problem here, right? Because what happens, they spend too much money when market's doing well, and then at times like this, they cars get rippled, things start happening. They got to move out. They got to disappear from the internet. That's why slow and steady wins the race. Salute. Sure, what's going on? So listen, today, let me share my screen here. Boom. Bum, 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 bum. So today we're going to be here talking, obviously, crypto. Let me see. All right, can everybody see my screen? Perfect. All right, ready to go, man. Good evening. Welcome to day 4, right? So things that, most of the things that brought us to this day, right? And some of the things that we learned give us the ability to make better choices, because crypto's not like stocks, right? So like some people shouldn't even get involved in crypto if you're not into the liability. So that's the point in crypto. And this is obviously, there's some people here, there are a little bit more seasoned, and they know a little bit more about the crypto centralized system, things like Coinbase and crypto.com, Gemini, and those type of things. Consider those kind of like your banks, right? Like Chase, Citibank, Bank of America. They're all private banks that control money, and that's why it was important for us to start in the beginning talking about finance, which is how we're rebuilding the system, the financial system, but in the blockchain, right? So we're gonna get into a little bit of that. But for those of you, the guys that are new here, my name is Mike Fountain, and I've been around the internet since around 2020, right? My friends call me Trapp. I tend to do a little bit of trading here and there. I scribble some stuff on chart lines, and I really, really enjoy hanging out on the internet and sharing the information that I find along the way. So if you guys landed here today, or any of these lives, or if you're watching this on the replay, is because you yourself, you're looking for something a little bit extra than you already have, right? And you understand that you're smart enough to learn a skill or two that can translate to a few extra dollars at the end of the month, or at the end of the year, or at the end of the life where you goes to retirement, right? And as I've been saying in the past 4 or 5 days, making money is boring. right? It's not as like people make it to be, right? You can hit it off the park, just like there's a way to you win the lottery too, right? And you can hit it off the park and get millions, but that doesn't mean that you get to capture, right? So if you don't fit to your current risk, your type of investment, the amount of money investment, the amount of time you're hanging into these things, right? So you have to have a strategy. You have to have a plan. Remember how we talked about it, right? You have a plan, then you can adjust it, right? You practice that plan over and over the road. If you're still not getting the results, then maybe that's not the right plan, right? But it's not really cool that you jump around from one idea to another idea. You trade this, and then you trade all the way to from beginning all the way to trading crypto for per se. And I'm gonna talk about some tools that you can use to make you a little bit better, but also I'm thinking of putting together. I was speaking to Rosa today, and a lot of people have been requesting a trading course. So I decided I'm gonna put together for you guys a workshop for the trading for like to teach you guys how to chart. So if you guys are interested in that after, let me know and we'll get into that. But first of all, let's start from the beginning, right? If you want to understand crypto, right? You already understand who you are because day two we talked about investors, right? If you're a trader or an investor, that's how you're gonna approach today's classes as well, right? Somebody does a little bit of both, right? But ideally, you want to understand what you're getting into before you actually start. And then here in cryptos, for every dollar you invest, thinking about what kind of investor you are, moderate, if you're high risk, low risk, and things like that. But ideally, just like everything else, when you start playing a game, you need to understand the rules, right? You need to understand the lingo, right? And so those are the things that I suggest the first for everybody, right? Because a lot of people want to skip these steps and they make fast money, but it's not reliable. So like you can hit like a meme coin here and there, and Girl in the Verse can tell you this. She's in the blockchain too. Like she's like a real like influencer, and she travels and she meets people that are really doing this. And there's a couple people that are hitting up, but it's always something behind it that they're extracting from the community, or they're getting like insider information. It's never like, oh my god, like I'm turning $1,000 to 200 grand. Like, sorry if I'm exposing somebody. I don't know, I don't care, but like so you need the date, right? It's kind of like I tell my people that are my friends that are artists and stuff. I said, look, I get it, you want to be an artist, but like you still need to pay the bills, right? So like, why don't you do this and that, and so that you can have a stream of income that is consistent, right? That allows you to invest a little bit, that can pay for whatever, in structure. So long story short, for that, right, we need to understand a few things before we start talking about anything in crypto. So one thing is that why crypto, right? Why is here? How does it exist? What is it, right? And so that is the mind frame that I want you to explain to you guys, because I don't spend my energy anymore talking to people and trying to convince them that crypto is it, and it's here to stay, and it's the future is gonna be crypto, and there's a lot of blockchain in our future. I don't do that anymore, right? Because that energy is what I had like 5 years ago, like 6 years ago. Now I focus my energy because I have a very little. I have a limit of 3 hours on the internet every day, right? So like I focus those 3 hours on people that already believe, and you want to sharpen their skills, because it's not something that you can just, okay, I'm a believer now. Now I'm gonna start trading meme coins and I'm gonna make a bag. And no, it doesn't work like that. Like, even if you decide that today, that day, day one, or today is the day that you start, or another day, right? Day one or another day. From day one, you still need to show up to these classes. You need to, I'm sending worksheets every day on the email. So like today, in the email that I sent out, you had two worksheets that you can do after this class. One that is really long for the people that are insane like me, that like the shit, and so they're gonna do it. And then I got a one that is like a little little water down situation, just so you can check the box. But ideally, when you learn these things that is fresh in your head, you want to put it to practice for a little bit so that it can stay, right? But going back to understanding why crypto and why it's gonna be here. And this is, you guys are privileged, because like I said, I'm not here to convince people, but today I kind of am, right? Because it's part of my presentation, right? So ideally, crypto, that's why I like to build on top of things. So I talked to you guys about the history of money, and you guys understand that now the United States, and the British pound and the euro are usually the currencies that are pretty, running the world right now. They're a first world country, and they created inflation, they print money, and they control, like, the lending, they control the liquidity global. So it's just a cool club, and you're not in it, right? And like it's so many moving parts that affect it, that it takes years for you to really understand it and be able to make decisions. And even then, your decisions don't mean nothing, because it can come in, like right now there's an accusation of Jane Street manipulating the market, which we all knew. Everybody that is in crypto knew. Yes or no, Melina? Everybody been talking about the manipulation forever, because like the stock market is booming, everything is booming, and Bitcoin is taking a dump. And every day at 10 a.m. It'll pump a little bit and then it dump, right? So apparently now they're getting sued, and they're, market manipulation, because the thing is, bottom line is, crypto is small, right? Crypto is a 2.53 trillion dollar market cap. The max we ever been is like 4.2 or some shit, right? So that's not big. The stock market loses 3 trillion in a bad day. That is like 1 to 3%. So like, it's not it doesn't take much to manipulate it. So that's the problem still, right? And that's why we have volatility, right? They broke the market with Terra Luna, and then they broke it with FTX. Now they keep doing this thing. On October they broke it again. Like it just keeps happening. It's just part of the game. But you know what the best part is that we're so resilient that we keep building, because there's a lot of people that is in the crypto space that they don't care about the price to go up, price to go down. They're here to fucking build, and they just keep doing exactly what they're doing, And I'm actually blessed to know a lot of those people. Melina's one of them, actually. She doesn't care if the price goes up, price go down. She's like, yo, Trap, I'm buying. What do I buy? What do I buy? Oh, what do I put my money? Oh man, things are down. What can I buy now? And she keeps working, right? She keeps meeting people. She keeps expanding the crypto space. She keeps doing things like that, and that's what I think that everybody should be doing, right? Like making, growing your money, custodying your money, and expanding your knowledge as far as like how to do those things. Growing and investing and custodying your money should be something that is permanent in your life, right? They're gonna be a necessity, right? And there's let me see how many of you guys are here today. So there's 31 of you guys here. I want to thank you guys for your time, obviously. But think about it like this: there's 8.2 billion, 500 million that to transfer money. The people in Argentina buy Bitcoin so that their money doesn't go to hell again. Some people in Brazil do that as well, because the fluctuation of the local currency, right? But it's not because oh my God, I believe Bitcoin. No, it's just a necessity, so it becomes the norm, right? So that's gonna happen more and more, right? And it's not just Bitcoin, but Bitcoin, Ethereum, it makes up about 65% of the entire crypto market liquidity. Or so if you want those two to do bad, and if you think those two are gonna die, then yeah, the crypto department is gonna die, because if 65% of the market goes away, then yeah, imagine that. So anybody that is online telling you that, oh, it's not worth to buy Bitcoin anymore, or Ethereum, it sucks because Solana is better, or XRP, like yes, there's some merit to all of those, because they've been around forever and they have their merit online, but they're not Ethereum and Bitcoin. And money talks, bullshit walks. So like I said, for every dollar that comes into the crypto space, 65 cents go to Ethereum and Bitcoin, 50 cents goes to Bitcoin, and then another 20, about 15 to 20 cents goes to Ethereum, right? So that means that right there alone, you got about 75% of the entire dollar, and then you divide 25 cents for like 20 million other. I've bought it. I'm an ADA guy. I'm a Polkadot guy. I'm a VeChain guy. I'm the OG guy too. I hold new things, but I also been having something from back then, right? And so I'm not saying that they're not going anywhere. All I'm saying is that if you hold those coins only and you're waiting for the moon, you're gonna be waiting for a while, because things are gonna take a little while here. You know what I mean? And establishing a Bitcoin and Ethereum is always going to be something that you have to do, because that's what runs the market right now. Mostly Bitcoin, obviously. I do Ethereum a little bit more than Bitcoin, just because I believe in the upside of Ethereum as well, and I've always been bullish in Ethereum. If you follow me, you know, right? And I like Solana too, because like one or two cycles ago, I was like, oh, Ethereum only, and I missed a lot of money, because Solana had a nice run. XRP bounced back from dead, and then did like a 3x. So like I understood that in the last cycles, right? So it doesn't matter what the coin is. Like, stop marrying these coins. Like, just date them, right? Date them, take advantage of them, and make some money and just move on. You know what I mean? Because the really ones that should be here in the next 10 years is Bitcoin, Ethereum. Because if you go back 10 years from now, so go back to 2016, Bitcoin, Ethereum were top two. If you go back 15 years from now, right, maybe 2000, the year 2012, Bitcoin, Ethereum, 2015, my bad, Bitcoin, Ethereum were top two, right? So that means that they're likely gonna be here in the next 10 years or so, right? And their market caps are gonna continue to grow. So understanding that crypto is one thing, right? But the blockchain itself is kind of like the evolution of the internet. So think about it like this, right? Some of you guys are old enough to know that the internet, when it started, we had these websites that were called like GeoCities. You go in there and you upload some stuff like whatever you want, and it was a static page, right? You couldn't do anything to it, and the website was like geocities.com, and it was like a whole bunch of numbers. So it was that was web one, where the information was online, but there was web, you uploaded information, but that information was actually able to interact with other people, right? So you went to MySpace, you even had a little bit of coding situation going for yourself. You added a little music to your MySpace, you added a little bit of like different colors when people showed up, and you can customize your page and stuff. Some of you guys are too young for MySpace, but think about it, like this was pre-Facebook. So if you don't even fuck Facebook too much, and you're like a Snap guy or Instagram, or before all that, we had MySpace, and after MySpace came Facebook, and that was the main one. But you used to have to put information and then a password. Then later, you just started clicking the email, right? So now they remove all your personal information. This is what the problem is, right? Because when we went to Web 2, which is the internet that you guys know right now, at that point, whenever you press yes, I want to log in with my email because it's convenient, that moment you are assuming and allowing that website to grab all your data based on that email, and that sucks, right? Because now they can judge you based on your buys, on your buy history, on your monetary value. If they know any type of information they can extract from you, and it's also right. So in Web3, we're trying to reverse that. We're trying to allow you to log into things with what's called a wallet, right? And when you create a wallet, you don't have to put your name, you don't have to put your address, they don't care who you are, and you simply have money on that wallet, and you connect that wallet into the website instead of connecting yourself and your personal self. So ideally, right, and it has its own money, because in the internet you cannot use checks, right? You can use credit cards, but it's inefficient, right? You cannot use cash, right? So you have to have some type of digital money that you can transact online. So boom, think of blockchain, the future, the future of the internet. Got it, Mike. Okay, now what else? Now the internet has its money. That's money. It's money on the internet. The internet has many the Web3 blockchain has many companies, right? And those companies are called different blockchains, right? Ethereum has its own blockchain, Bitcoin has its own blockchain, Solana has its own blockchain, right? So each they're coins that have their own blockchain, and if they're tokens, they don't have their own blockchain. So this is let me put it here on the messages. This is very important for you guys to know. So coins versus tokens. Okay, so if you guys didn't know, a coin, if we say it's a crypto coin, that means it has its own blockchain. If we say it's a crypto token, that means it does not have its own blockchain, right? So it's native. It doesn't have its own blockchain. It exists in the Ethereum blockchain. So what is blockchain? It's a block with all the computers of, think of it as like almost like a chain of computers online worldwide that are interconnected, and they are, and based on information that they have been programmed with, they make decisions. Okay, whether there's paying something or stopping something or abstracts. And why are they smart? Because they tend to work on something called if this then that. So they work, if this happens, they release this response. And ideally, that's what we're going to be using to eliminate a lot of the human corruption that we have in our living systems today, right? I like blockchains that can be frozen, permissionless. Yeah, they have those as well. But think about it, man. Like as we get more and more digital, there's not much things that the NSA and these people can't do, right? So don't go through that rabbit hole, and do the best you can. But if you are looking for something like that, then you're looking into something like Monero or something like Dash, or maybe even something like Zcash, right? So those are a little bit better. But anyhow, so now that you kind of understand what the blockchain is, right, which is not big deal. It's just different types of internet, let's say road, right? So think about the internet as think about the block let's say road, right? So think about the internet as think about the blockchain as like a highway, and then within that highway there's many little roads that you can take. There's the Ethereums, there's the there's the Bitcoins, there's the Solanas, and in between there's inside those there's other coins too. So I'm not gonna complicate it too much, but I just wanted to understand you guys to understand blockchain. So because a lot of people hear blockchain, they like they get turned off already. It's like, oh my god, that's like too much for me, right? But the thing is this. I'm not telling you to understand none of this shit. I'm just breaking it down for some people that understand, that like it. But like, you don't need to understand how this works to get involved, because you don't know how your phone works and you use it. You don't know how your TV works and you use it. There's a lot of things in your house that you use that you don't know how it works and you use it. So I'm not telling you to understand it. I'm telling you that this is a lane that you need to get involved, because in the next decade, a lot of the world, as you know, is going to be digitalized. Okay, it's already happening. Robots are coming. They're going to replace a lot of jobs. There's a lot of things happening in the next 5 to 10 years that are going to transform the way that humans live in this earth. Okay, and a lot of that stuff is going to happen on the blockchain, meaning the stock market is going to go there. Your title of your house is going to go there. Your diplomas are going to go there. Anything that people don't want it to be faked and you want to be instantly identifiable, that's going to go on the blockchain, because you can type in there and you can double check anywhere in the world and the information is recorded there. Nobody can change it, right? So things that you want to be authentic, right, you want it on the blockchain. Like if you buy a Louis Vuitton shirt that is $1,000, you should be able to scan it and takes it to the blockchain that says, yeah, Michael bought this on this date. So if I'm trying to sell that, I can just, hey, here, scan this, and it makes the transaction better, right? So that we're moving towards that, because trust is gone in the society that we have today, right? So there's a lot of these things that are going to start to evolve very fast. Now, when you're inside the crypto space, you need to understand that it's a wild, wild west, right? There's not a lot of rules yet, right? The rules are still being established, and what that means is, if the rules are still being established, you people are gonna do some wild stuff, and only the strong is gonna survive. And so if you're trying to come here and trade penny stocks, aka meme coins, and you think you're gonna make the money, 200 grand out of $200, like that guy that you saw online, the possibility of that happening is very slim. Most likely, you're gonna give that guy your money, right? Because trading meme coins, it's like trading penny stocks, right? There's a lot of risk to it. Even though when you do hit it, you hit it well. It's better if you have a strategy of it, right? It's not one of those that you put, I put 5K into this meme coin, like I don't recommend. If you hit that, sometimes it's not a viable strategy. It's viable strategies that you can repeat and get like proven results over and over, instead of like like YOLO plays. I don't know if that comes across, like maybe not too much, like what do you want to what people are looking for sometimes, because it's a little boring. But like making money is boring, right? So like these are strategies that you can use repeated over and over, like the option strategies I gave you and things like that, right? So one of the things that you're gonna have to learn how to do on crypto, which is I'm gonna show you today, is you're gonna have to learn how to analyze them, right? You gotta, just like you should be able to read a stock and see, who owns it, how much money they make, what are they in the business of, how much, how they're doing their earnings, are they meeting expectations, shareholder, well, okay, and evaluation, right? So that's why when people say, "Oh, Dior, Dior, this is not financial advice." That means do your own research, right? So that means that, okay, look, I'm putting you onto this crypto. It might be the next one, but it might not, right? So like do some research, go into it, evaluate. You know what I mean? So we're gonna talk about that too, and then I'm gonna talk about work. Now you're missing that part, right? You're supposed to go to CoinMarketCap and create $100,000 portfolio, right, with cryptos on it, right, based on your investor type, right, moderate, high risk, low risk, and then divide it based on how much risk you're willing to take, 80-20, 70-30, 50-50, so you can have a short term and a long term portfolio. You see how everything builds. So if you're like if you're not on class 1 or class 2 or class 3, you kind of like float a little bit because everything builds to the next, right? That's how I pull up to your classes and I learn so much more than the other ones, and it's because of that, right? Because it's kind of like me telling a story, and I'm adding pieces, and then I go back and I add it again, and then I start the story of the next day talking about what I talked before, so it kind of like brings it together. So I'm gonna talk about building and creating a portfolio. Some bad actors out there, so they're gonna try to fake it. They're gonna fake that they're calling from the bank. They're gonna fake that they're calling from Coinbase. They're gonna, send you fake emails. They're gonna tell you that crazy stuff is gonna happen. And if you fall for them, they're gonna take all your crypto, right? So if you feel uncomfortable with that, then you shouldn't be doing anything in crypto. I'm not saying you shouldn't get exposure to it, because obviously now we're so advanced in the crypto, and that's why I know we're not dying, that Wall Street already adapted. So that means we have something called ETFs. Remember how we are talking about in stocks that there's ETFs? Just like they have ETFs for stocks, they now have ETF for crypto. They don't have multi crypto ETFs yet, but they're coming too. But for now, you can buy ETFs for Ethereum, you can buy ETF for Bitcoin, and XRP believe has one of them too. So definitely it's something that is it's part of crypto as well, and you don't have to remember passwords. And if you buy an ETF, you're still gonna get exposure to Bitcoin, right? I prefer you buy the actual Bitcoin, hold it, but if you don't have to worry about like putting it away, you don't have to worry about getting hacked, right? So it depends on where you at, right? That's why I always like to tell people one thing is not good for everybody, right? Some people, if you're an investor, just and you don't want to take the risk, then just buy ETFs. You know what I mean? But if you want to take a little bit more risk, then buy the Bitcoin, custody yourself, put it away, right? I'm gonna talk about where to put it away too and things like that. Chasing airdrops, I got my wallet hacked. Do you see that? That's another thing, because airdrops are cool, but if you're gonna do airdrops, you gotta have what's called hygiene, right? So I have a really good friend that he works for MetaMask. He's one of the big dogs. They're smart guy, right? He always says like you can't raw dog the blockchain, right? So just like you have protected everything else in the real world, you got to protect yourself when you're surfing the blockchain as well, because of that, right? There's a lot of bad people. And what I recommend when you're doing airdrops, always have a wallet just for that, right? So like instead of having all your money concentrated, every time that I'm doing an airdrop, I spin up a new wallet. It's free. I don't understand why people use the same wallet to go everywhere. I know it's a pain in the ass sometimes, and you lose a little bit of money moving stuff with the gas, but like it's worth it, right? So like I always spin up a wallet for airdrops, or for if I'm using something a little shady or a new exchange that is decentralized, I'll spin up a new wallet and I'll use that, or I use a robot on Telegram to shield me from it, right? So like these are some of the practice that you need to learn, but you learn as you go, and usually when you learn by being hacked and things like that, you end up getting a little bit of better, right? You see, MetaMask saved me doing ETH Amber, and now MetaMask has something really cool too. Is that they cover you up to $10,000 if you get like rug pulled. But if you gotta follow some basic stuff, right? If you do some of the things they say, they cover. I'm gonna show you guys how avoid some of the traps. Right, there's scams everywhere. I mean, show you how to avoid some common mistakes, and we keep going. Right, so we're 36 minutes into this. I feel like there's a lot of information here for us to talk about. Let me know how we're doing. If you guys got any questions, just drop them there. I love questions. I love to make sure that, because communication is a two-way street, okay? But communication is not a one-way street. If I'm just gonna actually some questions that pop up, but we already talked about the future of money, right? Because I told you guys, things are moving where robots are gonna be, doing things for you online. They're gonna be booking things, reservations. They're gonna be paying bills. They're gonna be ordering food online for you. They're gonna be driving eventually. They're gonna be buying things for you. So robots most likely are not going to use credit cards. They're going to use cryptocurrencies, right? Especially if they're living inside your computers, right? Your robot that does your groceries, that one might have cryptocurrencies, right? He'll get into a Tesla that's going to pick them up, take them to the shop, And these things are really happening in the next 5 years, right? So the future here, right? But checks is like 30 years ago. You know what I mean? Like the cash was like a long time ago. They're all still here, and you know they're not gonna go away, but it's not gonna be the norm. The norm is gonna be digital. Everything is already digital. You're tapping to pay 90% of your stuff, right? And or you're clicking to pay 90% of your stuff. So the future of money is here. So I don't know why it takes people so hard to understand that not only crypto, and when I say crypto, I'm not talking about all the meme coins and shit like that. 90% of that stuff is gonna disappear 10 years from now. I'm talking about stable coins. I'm talking about Bitcoin. I'm talking about Solana. I'm talking about XRP, rail system payments. I'm talking about XLM. I'm talking about HBAR. I'm talking about Chainlink, which is the oracle that brings the information, connects the two worlds. Web 2 and Web 3 is connected by Chainlink, right? I'm talking about companies that are doing real world scenarios, even in my presentations, that the future technology companies that are going to rule the world, like the future Googles and Apples, a lot of them are going to come out of the blockchain. You know what I mean? And it's going to happen in the next 10 years. You're going to start to see them. So, we're going to talk about some of the, I think let's just skip to about the money evolving, right? The money evolves. We talked about that. What we have now with the crypto, with the blockchain and the digital is programmable money, right? The blockchain allows you to program value and exchange value in a place that is immutable. That means that people can't change. So lowers corruption, speeds up the time, removes the middleman. Like today, if you want to send money to somebody in Brazil, right? Because Brazil's cool now, and so you send in Brazil that receives it, take an Apple a wallet. For the people that already know what a crypto wallet is, put the wallets right there in the comments. For the people that don't know what wallets are, put the wallet that you use, like a couple, one or two wallets that you're already using, so that we can start talking and build into them. And being able to transfer that programmable money. Look, MetaMask and Phantom, right? I use Trust Wallet as well. I use MetaMask, obviously, right? These are the most popular ones, and what these are is we call these decentralized wallets, right? So these wallets, it's where you hold your crypto, right? So you hold your crypto on these wallets. Why? Because there's a really very famous saying in Chris. Tangent is cool too. Elepo. I actually like Trezor is the one that I use as well. Trezor is good. Ledger is okay. I don't like Ledger because they have backdoor and a lot of hacking. So if you're gonna do a cold wallet, I prefer you use Trezor. Um, so Kraken and Coinex, those are actually centralized. Those are like actual exchange, and then they have their own inner wallet, right? But ideally, the bottom line is those are all examples of wallets where you hold your crypto, okay? And you need those wallets to connect to the smart contracts that we talked about, right? That those are usually tend to be applications. So you put your crypto in there, and then you use that wallet to connect. Now, whenever you're connecting and you're performing a transaction, people get a little like lost when I say that, because they're like, "Yo, what do you mean, bro? You're talking money, and then you're gonna go talk about gas? Like that's crazy to me, right?" So record information on the blockchain, whether it's you buying and selling, whether there's an NFT, whether you're moving something, whether you're creating something for that transaction. Why? Well, because like I told you guys, that information is gonna get recorded all around the blockchain, and the way it's incentivized is that it pays the miner. Okay, there's a miner, there's a computer there that is mining information and checking information, and they get rewarded for checking that information and saying, okay, this information is legit. You can go ahead and record it on the blockchain. Those are called miners, and you can become a miner as well. So if you don't want to take any of the downside and the trading and the volatility of crypto, you can spend some money and you can build yourself a miner. You can mine Bitcoin, you can mine Ethereum, you can mine Litecoin. There's many tokens that are mineable, right? We call those proof of work or proof of stake coins. But ideally is that you become a operator and a valid, by the examples like Tau also pays you. Like Tau is a cryptocurrency that if you allow them to use some of your computer space, you earn Tau for the usage, right? So there's a lot of that happens, and this is all programmable, valuable on an infrastructure that is called the blockchain, right? So it's not, we're not talking speculation here. We're not talking about, this is not like 10 years ago. There's like, oh my God, maybe crypto. No, 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 no. You don't understand. You're so early into this that is only like 500,000 people talking this language and understanding and buying, right? And they're so scared because people tend to lose money and they get scared, right? They don't have any strategy. They just buy it because people told them to, and so they tend to lose a lot of money, right? So ideally, if you have conviction and you understand what's going on and you're purchasing Google, Amazon, and Apple in 1980 or like 2007, like when they started, that's what we're buying now. Real companies that are going to be around for a while, and you're getting to buy them at an early stage. Do you understand that? If you understand what I just said right now, drop a little emoji. Let me see if you guys are still active here, right? So what I'm saying here is point blank, these companies are going to come, right? And they're gonna maintain what we today, what we call like the top technology. Now what matters is that you continue the dollar cost average in things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, just because even if you don't want to do Ethereum, at least Bitcoin and something like move those bad companies, throw away, and they add good companies again. And then the same thing with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is going to continue to be scarce, right? Because there's only 21 million Bitcoin exist ever. There's only 1 million left to be mined. So that means there's right now there's 72 to 76 millionaires in the world, okay? And every day we have more millionaires coming in. If every millionaire tomorrow wanted to own one Bitcoin, they can understand what's going on, that the financial world is changing, and that the digital cryptocurrency and blockchain revolution is just as big, or if not bigger, even bigger than people don't understand that yet. And that's why I'm telling you that these is the opportunities that we're going, right? Pretty much the blockchain, to close this chapter, is a distributed ledger, right? Is information that is distributed all around different computers. And how do you know it's legit? Because people get paid to maintain it, right? Those are the miners, those are the validators, right? So exactly, everybody has a purpose, everybody has their job here, and everybody's here for some type of incentive. Now what I'm saying is this: it doesn't matter if you buy Bitcoin at 60,000, 40,000, 10,000. What matters if you buy, because when Bitcoin is 250,000, when Bitcoin is half a million, when Bitcoin is $1 million, it doesn't matter. You can be part of the 10% of the ruling class of the world, because that's just what's gonna happen, right? It's a transfer of the money, and everybody sees that because it's programmable money, and even governments want that. They want to be able to see what are you buying. The blockchain, people say, oh, you can't see stuff. No, it's there. Everything is recorded, right? Everything that is done in the blockchain is recorded there for somebody can, if you have, especially with AI, we can go back and see it. So remember how I told you guys that in order for you to purchase crypto and understand it, you need to evaluate it, right? So this is what I look for when I'm buying crypto and I'm studying what it is, right? So obviously, a store value, right? I want to buy things that have some type of stability, that are going to maintain my money for long enough time, right? If not, then it doesn't fit on my long-term portfolio. Maybe I'll dabble a little bit on it on my short-term high-risk portfolio. But technically, Bitcoin is one of those, right? It's a store of value. Like if you buy Bitcoin and you hold for 5 years, there's nobody that has ever lost money for doing that same action, right? So maybe if you bought at the top at 120, now you're like 50% off. But if you hold it for a couple more years, not only you're gonna go back to what you bought at, but you're gonna make some money. And it has been happening over and over for the since 2012, I believe, that is been happening. Right now, the other thing, um, smart contract, right? If it's a blockchain, it has smart contracts. What is that smart contract doing, right? What kind of company are they doing? What are they providing, right? What are they programming? So it's always something that you want to know, because that influences, right? You want to know what's the moat. They call it the moat of the company. Some people like utility, right? I put that here, utility. The utility is like when you buy a token and then it gives you something, right? So like let's say gives you access to something, or you give you a reward. That's usually a utility, right? Or you can, if you hold this NFT, you have access to all the rolling louds in the world, right? So like there's a lot of those things that happen. Meme coins are the ones that are like they're like penny stocks, right? So they look like speculation, highly speculative, and sometimes a couple of them pop and do well, okay, and they become what's called a culture coin. So like Dogecoin was the first meme coin to ever. So it's not a token. It's actually a crypto, but it was the OG of meme coins. So because it's the OG and it's the biggest cryptocurrency, I think the highest it's ever been. I think it's like $60 billion market cap. Because it's the OG, because then it's no longer we don't just consider a meme coin anymore. It's the OG and the largest meme coin. So that became a culture coin. So it just transformed on a coin, right? So that's, for example, Doge is one of them. And then lastly, you have stable coins. Okay, a lot of people don't understand stable coins too much because they're like, yo, Trap, stable coins, they're pegged to the dollar 1 to 1. So why would I change that thinking for you guys? I don't want to say dollar because it could be any currency, but I want you to think of stablecoin as your digital version of your money. Okay, stablecoin is a digital version of your money. Dollar loses power, so $1 today because the purchasing power loses value, right? But stablecoin doesn't go up or down. A dollar is a dollar. If I buy $1 of stablecoin today and I hold it for a year in my wallet and I check tomorrow, if it didn't break, it's still worth $1. So why now that is bearish, people tend to leave the market, right? They sell, but they don't want to leave completely because they want to come back eventually. So they either sell it into stable coins and wait, or they sell it into bigger coin like Bitcoin, right? That's why usually we look into something called a USDT or a stable coin dominance and a Bitcoin dominance to kind of gauge the market, right? There's a correlation into those because of the fact that when people leave the crypto market, they go into stable coins or into Bitcoin. Now, why else would I buy stablecoins? Because when you buy stablecoin, think about it like your savings account, right? So like when you put money in the bank and you leave it in a savings account, it's shit. They give you very little money for it, right? And it's like less than 1%, unless you got like a high yield savings account, which you get like 4 or 5% or something like that. It's still shit, right? So what you do is you get that money. Let's say you had $10,000 on your savings account, okay, and you're earning, let's say, amazing, you're getting 3% a year. Okay. Then you grab that same $10,000, you turn it into a stable coin, you bring it into the crypto space. Now you can deposit that in a crypto bank and you can earn 8, 10, 14% on that same cash just by having it sit there, just like it's sitting on your savings account. If that makes sense to you, drop a little emoji there so I can move on. But that's why people would buy stable coins, right? Because you can provide liquidity. You can have something like a stable coin of savings account. You're provided of liquidity, and that liquidity is divided with you because that happens in your bank right now. You just don't participate. When you go and you deposit $100 in your bank, with the bank today, they function in something called a fractional reserve system, okay? So a fractional reserve system means that when you go and you deposit $100 in the, and they make money on that money, but they don't give you a piece of it. And that's the difference. The difference is that when you do that in crypto, in the DeFi space, you get to enjoy some of the return. I'm trying to get them on those stocks. Yeah, on those stocks are cool too. That's that later. But yeah, a lot of these stocks are going to exist in the blockchain, and Ondo is a company that is doing that. So they have their token too. Stable value, exactly. It doesn't fluctuate. When there's a lot of volatility in the market, you put your crypto into a stable coin instead of transferring into a fiat and paying higher tax. Exactly, because well, you're still gonna pay taxes because you're selling, right? So every time that you sell crypto, they consider a taxable event. I'm not an accountant, and this is not financial advice or accounting advice, but it's basic shit that you need to know, right? So this is basic right here. When you buy any asset in the United States, 65 plus 1 day, that's a year and a day, unless you buy that asset inside a corporation or a trust in which you don't pay tax, and that's another story altogether. But if you're buying on a personal situation, it's not under a company, you're going to pay something called capital gain tax if you sell it less than a year, okay? Now, some people use that as a trick, so I'm going to give it to you now too. It might go over your head, okay? But let's say you bought Bitcoin at a high, at $120,000. Right now, you have a $60,000 loss that you can write off. So if you have bought that under company, like, and you bought and you made money on your company this year and you had to pay tax amount of money that you have to pay to the government for 60,000 that you had to pay, and then you buy the same amount of Bitcoin with 60,000, now you have the same position. You took tax there that people can do. You understand what happened right there, right? Because that's called the capital gains, that you win, but also you have the downside. So if you lose, if you don't what? What if you don't pay? I don't know. Is that what you're saying? IRS walks into the chat. IRS walks into the chat. Oh shit, my bad. Okay. If you don't sell it, then you go into to a capital gain bracket, but much less. Like if you're living in California, I don't know where you guys at. Drop it where you from, where you at right now, because California is different, right? So like if you're in California, Jersey taxes where you at, and figure out what that is. For you, Rolly, you in Miami, so you go by the Florida tax for that whole year, then you're good. Because then when you do sell it, that's when you book what's called the gains, the capital gains. When you sell crypto is the time that you have. And that's why we got into this conversation, because that's what he was saying, right? When things go down, people sell crypto and they go into stable coin because they still want to be involved, but they don't want to be losing more money. They want to stop losing and then try to buy the bottom, which most people don't know what the bottom is. We understand that part. Now we can move on, right? Obviously, there's gonna be, I already talked about the wallets, right? So now we're talking about, let's talk about some exchanges, right? So there's many exchanges. Okay, there's two types of them. One of them is called decentralized and the other one is centralized. Think of centralized is the same thing, they're dexes. They're decentralized exchanges. And what that means is there ain't no customer service. You ain't gonna be calling nobody. There ain't no place you can pull up to. There ain't no CEO, right? Everything works on smart contracts. If this, then that logic, right? So that's why you need to understand it before you use it, because you can lose your money. You can send your money to the wrong place. You can send it to the wrong blockchain. And when you do those mistakes, it's gone. I have $500 sitting on Robinhood today that I can't get. And it's me. It's crypto trap. You feel me? So like, if I'm making those mistakes 5 years in this shit, like I guarantee you're gonna make some too. So you have to establish things that are gonna be very good for you to maintain your attention and being very meticulous on how you do this. One of them is like whenever you're transferring, you should always send one little piece first. You don't never send your entire money. I've seen people lose thousands of dollars because they send it to the wrong address, send it to the wrong blockchain, and it never arrives, right? And you can't call nobody. You know the desperation that it is when somebody realizes that happened? Drop a little emoji in the chat if that ever happened to you, that you send money somewhere and it took a little longer than expected. That feeling right there is sickening to the stomach, especially if you're doing a large amount. So one of the tricks that I always say is always send small amount first, confirm, and then you repeat the transaction, right? Look at Michael, right? Everybody knows we've been there, right? So you learned a little bit. The other thing that I tell people is it's better for you to scan QR codes than copy and paste. If you are gonna copy and paste the transaction, the wallet addresses or the addresses, you want to make sure that when you paste it, you double check the first three numbers and the last three numbers, because that's where most mistakes happen when we're copying and pasting, right? But pretty much the difference between a centralized exchange and a decentralized exchange, I just gave it to you guys, right? And because it's centralized exchange, think of them like a regular bank. They're gonna have some deals, but not great deals like a decentralized. So like, remember how I say like, oh, you can get 8 to 10%, maybe even 14%, crazy, maybe like a short-term situation, right? So that's the difference. So like, if you stay centralized, which is in the beginning you have to, right? Understand that there's something better. Understand that when a coin arrives on Coinbase, we already made hella money with it on the decentralized space. It already did 200x, 10x, 30x, 40x, 1000x before it got to you, right? So this is the mainframe where the people that are just getting started are working on. That's the Coinbases, that's the Gemini, that's the Crypto.com, that's That's the Cash App or cost your entire way to the Chrome. You don't need those wallets if you're buying that crypto and you leave it on Coinbase. You don't need that wallet if you're buying your crypto on Cash App and you're leaving it there or in Weibo. But if those companies go bankrupt or if they close tomorrow, you're out of gas. You lost your crypto. And that's why we say no, not your keys, not your wallet. Why? Because when you create a wallet, the DeFi wallets that we told you, the MetaMask, the Phantoms, the Trust wallets, they give you these keywords, and that keyword you can get hacked. So ideally, you want to write them, put it in a. I just memorized one word of my long-term wallet, and then the other ones I have them everywhere because it's one word missing. So they're gonna have to figure that out if they can get to it. And I know that word, so anywhere in the world that I can get access to a phone, I plug in those words, I add that last word that I know, and boom, my money is there available. That's the beauty of the blockchain, the crypto space, right? If you had gold and you're a million, and that's the beauty with crypto as well. You have everything on a USB card or maybe even digitally on your phone in an app, and you can cross borders with it without having to think about it, right? So, Michael, do you have a question? Or, oh no, you're just saying that you're one of them, right? Yeah, I know a lot of us. We all did it, man. We all send things wrong. We've all got it there. That's what I'm saying. If you do smaller transactions as a test, at least it's gonna be a less painful information. Now, of the trading space here because now it's already 9:30, so we've been in an hour, so I'll probably go for another 15 to 20 minutes and get a little bit deeper. So the content tends to get a little bit, obviously a little bit harder as we move towards the end of the live, right? But the risk, the scams, and the mistakes, obviously, like I told you, right? We have something called social engineering where your information is online, so they can get your information, call you and say, hey, we're calling from Coinbase. You know, we see that you got hacked. We need to change your account. Da, da, da. Never listen to those people. Hang up on them. Never answer email. Nobody's going to be calling you, bro. Like, Trapp is not going to call you and ask you for money. Coinbase is not going to call you and say somebody's hacking you. That's not going to happen. I promise you. You do not have that. You're not that guy. You're not Himati. It's Chada. It's Shamaya in India. He's Coinbase, right? So unbelievable. There's a lot of scams. There's young kids, 60. Be careful because a lot of these things are gonna get some regulation coming, but it's still the wild wild west. Okay, so that's why I want you guys to let me see, boom, boom, boom. I wanted you guys to understand that these are just some of the examples of the coins that that I've been talking about for the whole time. And then this right here is what my favorite industries are in the crypto space. Don't click on shading links. I'll steal 2 grand. Okay. Most of the time, when people get hacked on the crypto space, they give their coins to the hackers by clicking links or by pressing OK on transactions without reading. Because every time you're doing a transaction on crypto, your wallet is going to create a pop up. And in that pop up is going to tell you what it is for. And people just click yes and don't read it. Remember how they say you're supposed to read everything before you sign? Or you could connect, but just make sure it's a wallet subject. And what makes a long-term crypto? Obviously, my favorite space right now in the crypto space to accumulate is RWA, which is real world assets, right? So real world utility, which means like, tokenizing stocks, like somebody here was saying, like, oh, I'm buying stocks on Ondo Finance. When you're buying stocks on Ondo Finance, you're buying little stocks on the blockchain, right? So you can buy anytime. You don't need to wait for the stock market to be open. So we're gonna start seeing more of that, and that's called tokenization. We're gonna start tokenizing real estate assets as well. So it's definitely a long-term plan. If you're looking to get in on cryptos that are doing that, it's a strong one, on the fight chain, right? I mean, Ethereum has the most amount of developer activity. Solana has a lot of developer activity too. Sui has a lot of developer activity. XRP as well, right? So can we go outside the United States, and you got to go decentralized, right? Because anything centralized, they're going to KYC because they are going to get KYC too. So like Coinbase has to ask you for ID because they need to provide ID when they say that. Say wants to know who's Trapp and how they make 3,000. So that means they're going to ask you. But if you take that same that $1,000 and you go decentralized and you swap it on an exchange XYZ that asks you for your phone number only or maybe an email, now you're off the radar, right? So definitely what it says, CC wallet, not exchange. Can we still do wallet on CC? What is CC? Credit card? Credit card? You saying credit card wallet? Not exchange? I don't get it. I don't get the question. But anyhow, one of the things that you have to think about as well when you're purchasing crypto, when you're doing, you want to make sure that you're understanding the token supply. Okay, and I'm gonna show you guys an example of that here now. Okay, This is very important. I like to show this here. It's very basic stuff. I'm sorry for the people that are advanced. We're not gonna get to a lot of a lot of the more advanced stuff today, but this right here is called coin market cap. Is where I told you guys to come in and do your homework. And this is where you could have added here like your portfolio. I told you to come here and create a portfolio for $100,000 and then create a portfolio with all the cryptos that we have. But long story short, this is definitely a tool that you want to have with you, right? Over here you can see how much how much money is in the market. So 2.3 trillion. We went as high as 4 trillion, 4.2 trillion. Right now it's this much. Right now there's a fear, is extreme fear still at 16 points right here. It's not altcoin season, which means that the alternative coins other than Bitcoin are running. And this right here is the average RSI, which is like a strength of the market. So I suggest you guys get familiar with the top 20 coins on this list always. Okay, and for your long-term portfolio, you should hang around the top 5. Okay, maybe some Solana here, because if you remove the stable coins, you'll still be top 5. And this year you can break down a lot of good information. So definitely one of those websites that I wanted to show you. But what I wanted to tell you guys, the reason why I brought this up is because some people are like, oh, I get this all the time, right? The people are like, oh, I don't want to buy Bitcoin because it's already too expensive. I want to buy something that is under $1, because they think that by buying something that is low, under $1, that is gonna go higher, and they're gonna, if it goes to higher, they're gonna make like a lot of money, like the people that did with Bitcoin. But that doesn't work out because of something called market cap. So if you look here, right here in the middle of the screen, there's something called market cap, right? So the market cap is how much money is in that coin, right? Based on how much supply there is. So think about it, right? So Bitcoin went as high as $2.5 trillion, but the supply stays the same. The supply is right here on the left side of the screen. There's only 21 million Bitcoins ever, okay? There's 19 million, almost 20 million already in supply. And then there's 1 million Bitcoins, more or less, that is still being available for mining. So that's why this is important, because if you go and you buy a coin like Pepe, okay, so Pepe is very cheap. Bitcoin 67,000. So people will come here and they're like, oh, I'd rather buy Pepe, right? Because Pepe is 0.005. It's not even a penny. So if I buy Pepe and Pepe goes to $1, then I became a millionaire, right? No, that's incorrect, because Pepe's market cap has 413 trillion tokens. So for this right here to ever get to $1, it's like almost impossible. It will have to have so much money invested in here that will become impossible. So that's another thing that you need to understand when you're looking and evaluating crypto. You need to understand how many coins exist, right? Not only in circulation, but the total supply. And you need to understand what's called the market cap. Means how much money is in that community token right now, and that's $1.6 billion, right? Now that you understand that part, let's get something a little bit deeper, right? I'm gonna show you guys this tool right here that is called where's Dex tool? Dex tool, right? So let's talk a little bit about meme coins, right? So a lot of people, we talked about, buying, holding, and we talked about the best coins to do that, so a lot of people want to sometimes risk a little bit more money, right? So they like to trade something like this. Now think of these as like trading pennies, right? Like penny stocks. I don't like to do that. I only trade them when they're like about like a million market cap. So something like when I go to liquidity here, I want to make sure that there's money in it, right? So let's say I like to make sure that their market cap is at least a million, right? So I wouldn't trade anything under this area right here. And even those that are million go to zero as well. So most of these coins go to zero every day. That's why I'm telling you, it's like trying to find like a rice grain in the sand, right? So, but it's a strategy, and if you use Dex Screener, this you can create alerts, you can follow wallets. We also use something called Axiom, which is this one right here, being annoying, asking me to re-authenticate. This right here also is cool because it's a tool. Let's go. Oh. So this one right here is actually a cool tool because here not only you get to you can track people, right? So look at these are all the people I track, and after the course, I can give you guys, if you ask me, I can give you a list of these people. These are the people that are traders, right? And sometimes they make the right decision. You can click on them, right? And it tells you like how their portfolio, how much money they made lately. Let me show you here. Uh, Here, look, this guy. Jesus. This guy, this is all that this guy did, and then on the bottom here you see what he's been buying and what he's been selling. Okay, so this one right here, it's a cool tool. You can track people. It's kind of like copy and paste, right? If I wouldn't recommend it too much, but it's if you are trading meme coins, this is something. This is a tool that you can use that is gonna help you track. It's gonna help you, keep you check coins. It's gonna help you trade as well because it has its own wallet up here, right? That's one of the tools that I like. So that's two tools. The other tool that when you get a little bit more expert in the trading department, you're gonna start looking using something like this, like DeFi Llama, right? DeFi Llama is good because it has a lot of information on like the metrics. You have a lot of data here. You have a lot of the DeFi. Like when you click yields here, you can find a lot of the pools that I was talking about where you can deposit money. Like right now, you can deposit money on Lido Finance, right? You can deposit there. You can earn 2.3% APY, right? Which is like every 30 days, right? So that means that if you deposit there and you're getting this every 30 days, you're in the year, you're making like almost 25% of your money. That's good money, right? And there's $19 billion deposit there, so you shouldn't really be worried about losing your money because that's a lot of money in one place. You got this one right here. Look, Binance. This is Wrap Binance token as well. They're paying. So you should, if you want to dive a little deeper, you can look into some of these. Aave is a really good crypto bank as well. They pay. Um, and if you really want to get a little bit deeper, we have something called Beefy Finance that you can go into. And here you can find what's called, I call them money Legos, right? That means that if you already own crypto, right, you can put them together and you deposit somewhere for liquidity and then you receive yield on it. Kind of like, remember how we were talking about on the stocks, we are talking about dividends, that you can earn dividends on your stocks. So think of this the same way. So if you already own crypto, if you own like $10,000 worth of crypto and you're not making like at least $500 a month on that, like I don't know what you're doing. Like you're playing the wrong game. Like you need to call me and we need to work on that. If you own $50,000 worth of crypto and you're not making at least $1,000 of money a month on it, like I don't know what you're doing, but like 10% a year should be easy for you to make on that bread. Like 5 to 10 grand a year should be easy for you to make on the crypto just by using some of these things, right? And this is another example here. It's another very simple tool. You go here and you click what crypto do you own, okay? And then you go and it tells you like here what you can do. So like for example, let's pick one here that is not like too crazy, okay? Don't try not to stay into the ones that are too crazy. Look, you want to look that it has money inside of it, right? This 3 million here, that's pretty decent, right? So you want to make sure that it has some type of decent money. And I wouldn't buy something to earn it. What I'll do is if I have the crypto, I'll put it together and then I'll provide it. Does that make sense? This is not a strategy for you to go buy things so that you can store it so that you can make money. This strategy is so that if you do already have the crypto, right, you can come here and deposit and earn a percentage. So look, some of these API are ridiculous, but I like to tag the TVL too because there's got to be money in there. So these are two stable coins. This is wrapped AVAX and a stable coin that's paying crazy money, ridiculous. Like I don't really like these too much because a little bit more high risk. But look at this. If you have Bitcoin and USDC, you can deposit here right